You're listening to the voice of freedom, Lee Elsey, on 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk.
All right, so this is the moment you've all been waiting for. And I think this is the fifth time I've had Bill O'Reilly on. Every time I have him on, it takes me like 15 minutes to give him a proper introduction. So here's the deal. Best-selling author, the biggest news media icon in probably this country's history, with more watchers and more viewers, sold more books than just about anybody. His Killing series is brilliant. I love every single one of them. They're page turners. You can't put it down. So if you don't know who Bill O'Reilly is, get out of the rock that you've been hiding under. Bill, good morning. How are you?
Good, Lee. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Another great book. I love it. If you don't mind, can I read just one paragraph from the prologue, just to give everybody an idea. Tuesday, June 25th, 1591, Edinburgh, Scotland. The woman prays silently in her dirty prison cell. She is the mother of 2 boys who died in infancy and 3 grown daughters, not yet 40, a Catholic and a woman of means. She kneels in a thin dress, the fabric offering no padding against the cold rock floor. Her hands are soon to be bound in tight, thick rope for her ride to the burning stake. Jailers will parade her up Castle Hill, where she'll be executed. It's fantastic. I mean, it's from start to finish. You can't put it down, Bill. It's great stuff.
Well, I appreciate you reading it. A lot of the interviewers don't, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, Lee. You know, you're an educated man, so when you say that book is good, your listeners say, oh, maybe I'm going to get it.
Yeah. Well,
so Killing the Witches will open number 2 on the New York Times list is coming Sunday. I Hate Trump book is number 1, and,
right.
you know, there's little you can do about that kind of stuff. Those
right.
books come and go. Witches will be there for many, many months. But I wrote the book because there is a witch hunt today in America. And I wanted to get people's attention to how horrendous this whole you're guilty on any accusation deal is. So that's why I wrote the book. But the history of it would put you on the Mayflower. And, Lee, you and I did not want to be on that Mayflower. And people like it because they're not taught any of this in school. And then at the end, we tie everything in together for the present day.
Yeah, it's remarkable the way you do that. And it's three stories intertwined: Witching, The Founding Fathers, and The Exorcist, which is still the scariest movie ever made to this day. I don't care what anybody says, but you're 1,000% right. Obviously, 102 passengers, 30 crew, 10 weeks to cross the Atlantic. No first class on the Mayflower, right?
No, you couldn't even go up on deck. You got to stay in that dingy, smelly cargo hold for 66 days because it was too rough. And the guy who tried it, he got swept overboard. I mean, and we tell you the story. But what people need to know is that it was very, very rough in the beginning of the New World. I mean, it was survival every day. And hysteria broke out. And people died because of it.
Let's bounce around a couple different topics within the book. So in the context of the book's additional section of the impact in the Salem witch trials on the Constitution, I mean, how did the Founding Fathers like Madison use the events as a cautionary example of what they ended up putting down on paper?
Well, it was all about Benjamin Franklin, who was a young teenager in Boston. He went to Boston Latin High School, which is actually still functioning up there. And I know you have a lot of Connecticut listeners, Lee. And by the way, there were a lot of witches executed in Connecticut that we don't really hear about because there wasn't a formal tribunal there. It was kind of like people got hysterical and they threw the rope over the tree branch and the people died. And so we don't know every detail of that. But Benjamin Franklin was a young teenager, and he got onto this, and he visited the top witch hunter, a guy named Cotton Mather, who also lived in Boston. That conversation was so disturbing to Franklin that he kept it into adulthood. And when he went to Philadelphia to forge the Constitution of the United States, he, Jefferson, and Madison did not want any religion in the Constitution, where Patrick Henry and Roger Sherman of Connecticut, they did.
Right.
They wanted the United States to be defined as a Christian nation. Big brawl. And we tell you all about it. And Franklin and Madison and Jefferson won. And that's why we don't have any imposition of religion today.
And you mentioned Cotton Mather's terrible, terrible human being, right?
Oh, and his father was the first president of Harvard.
Right.
Increase Mather. And I was there about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'm telling everybody, you know the first president of Harvard is a witch hunter. Of course, they don't know, but now they will.
So back when the young girls began to make accusations, people being witches, there were rumors like these girls, like Abigail Williams, Betty Paris, like Ann Putnam Jr., they did some weird stuff. What happened with those girls?
Well, some of them met bad ends, and some of them didn't. None of them were prosecuted afterward. Once the witch trials stopped, and the only reason they stopped was the loons in Salem accused the governor's wife of being a witch, Mary Phipps. And
Right.
once that happened, William Phipps stopped it, the governor. That's the only reason that it stopped. But the girls who accused the adults of being witches, and being a witch means you are possessed by the devil. I mean, you are in the league with the devil, which is why I brought in the exorcism movie at the end of the book. So the girls were bored out of their minds because kids couldn't do anything in the Puritan culture. They couldn't have any fun. They're in church for hours and hours. And you can imagine, young girls, and they finally get something that's exciting, and it's a contagion. And one of them admitted that it was all bull years later. Of course it was. But some of these girls disappeared. Some of them died young. Some of them were expelled from the colony. There were a lot of things that happened. And it was so horrendous. And if you can believe that 12-year-old girls, phony accusations led to the deaths of 20 human beings.
Right.
I mean, that is really horrific.
Bill O'Reilly, Killing the Witches, his latest killing series book, The Horror of Salem, Massachusetts. Did anybody get away after being accused? What's the percentage of people who actually were found innocent?
You could be found innocent if you admitted you were a witch.
And then you're dead.
No.
No, they didn't kill you then? They didn't stone you
wouldn't
then?
kill you if you confess to being a witch, then you went into witch rehab. Or something like that. But the tribunal wanted to convince the people that there were in reality witches, and then these people who confessed, they say, see, we told you there were witches, but they didn't execute them. They were pretty much finished. Most of them left Salem and went other places, but they were spared.
The Witch Rehab is the Squad in Washington, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be.
So Bill O'Reilly again is with us. After that, like you get into the Exorcist part of that, and can you tie that as to why you wanted to include the Exorcist as part of the book?
I wanted to bring to the attention of the reader that there are unexplained phenomenon in this area. Okay, and the true exorcism story, a 13-year-old boy, in Maryland, who underwent a 3-month procedure, which is documented every way by psychiatrists, by medical doctors. Ronald Hunkler is his name, or was his name, and we chronicled his life after he got through with this harrowing thing. And that was what the book and the movie The Exorcist was based on. They changed it to a girl in a movie who was more sympathetic. But this thing, if you read, and we just researched the hell out of it. We got every diary, and we're 8 exorcists. I mean, okay, people say, oh, they're all lying, it's a big fraud. All right, if that's what you want to believe, that's what you want to believe. But it's hard to be fraudulent when you have medical doctors saying the kid has got blood on his chest from a wound and nobody knows how he got the wound. I mean, that's pretty tough to fake.
Yeah.
So that's what we did, and to bring the specter of evil, and I do believe there is evil in the world, to the attention of the reader.
9 people died during the making of The Exorcist.
Unbelievable.
Too, right?
9 people associated with the movie The Exorcist died during the filming.
Yeah.
Including 2 actors.
Yeah.
And Friedkin, the director, William Friedkin, he did The French Connection. He won the Oscar for that. He was a pagan. He didn't believe in any of this stuff. But after shooting the Exorcist movie, he reevaluated all of his spiritual beliefs.
So you leave this whole exercise of writing this book and all the documents you poured through, including all of the witch trial documents, which, by the way, people don't realize this, that everything's documented in the witch trials, which is pretty amazing.
Yep,
You can go back
the
and read
tribunal kept records, and every word of testimony is written down. It's all museums in New England now.
Yeah.
And obviously that's what we do. We ferret them out. So there's no, well, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't.
Right.
Everything you read in Killing the Witches happened.
But do you leave this book thinking to yourself, man, there is something else out there? There could possibly be a demonic possession of somebody?
Listen, I'm Roman Catholic, and that religion believes that. It's very rare. And in the Bible, when you read the New Testament there, Jesus, casts out the demons. A lot of that was epilepsy and things like that.
Right.
Where the people didn't know, what it was. But I do believe in an act of evil, that there is an evil in the world. I think we see it every day.
Yeah.
But, I want the reader to come to his or her own conclusion.
Bill O'Reilly is with us in the book Killing the Witches, the Horror of Salem, Massachusetts. You can get it at Amazon, all kinds of great places, I'm sure, on your website as well. Again, you are reformulating, once again, how news is brought, because you have just a tremendous, you got 100 people working for you now and doing a magnificent job in that area. I was going to ask you about Biden as the one or two questions about what's happening nowadays, but I have to ask you about what's happening in Gaza and the horror that we're watching unfold in front of us.
Well, it's another demonstration of evil. There are three fountains of evil in the world right now. So Islamic militancy is number one, and that philosophy is kill the Jews. Simple as that. There's no other philosophy.
Right.
If you're a militant Islamist, your mandate is to kill the Jews. And that's what the Hamas people are trying to do. The second one is Putin and the totalitarianism of Russia. And the third are the communist Chinese. Those are the three areas of evil that are demonstrable. Iran is part of the militancy, the Islamic militancy. So once you accept that, then you almost expect these groups to do stuff. I mean, when I heard about this Hamas attack, I was not surprised. I was in London.
Right.
And I said, okay, here we go again. Been doing this now for 2,000 years.
Right.
So I was not surprised, because those militants there, they want to kill all the Jews. Now, you can make an argument that Israel is far too punitive toward the Arabs under their thumb. You can make that argument. But, if you're over there and there's a faction that wants to kill you, you're going to probably overreact a little bit.
You mentioned there's three elements of evil. Is there any good left in the world, Bill?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we see, and that's a local thing, Lee.
Yeah.
People listening, people in your community volunteer, they help other people, they're always around doing good, and whatever it may be. There's a lot of good in the world.
Yeah.
But, the powerful people, particularly in the United States, I don't see a lot of nobility anymore.
Right. Yeah.
They're in it, most of them, I'm generalizing, for themselves.
Self-serving, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's sort of the point I was trying to make. There's no beacon of light on the hill. There's no, come to Jesus moment where Reagan is giving a powerful speech to tear down the wall. We don't have that anymore.
Well, I don't. It's a case-by-case thing now. I do believe that history goes in cycles, and we will. I don't know if it's going to be in my lifetime, but we will see the rise of benevolence again in the USA. I think that will happen. But, we got to go day to day now with what we got.
Yeah, Trump have that in him?
Trump is a duality guy, a very selfish guy, no doubt about it. But in his 4 years, he solved some vexing problems, and that helped America. But the press will never acknowledge anything that he did well.
Bill O'Reilly, the great Bill O'Reilly, Killing the Witches. You want to tell everybody one more time where they can get it, Bill?
Well, BillO'Reilly.com, if you become a premium or concierge member, and you should consider that. It'll enhance your life. You get the book free.
Oh, great.
But you can order on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, BillO'Reilly.com. We'll get that book to you really fast. And, It's around. People are talking about it. So, and I always appreciate talking to you, Lee. I'm glad you're doing well.
All
Stay
right,
strong,
Thank
okay?
you. I appreciate it, kid. Have a good one.
Cheers.
All right, you got it. Bill O'Reilly, the great Bill O'Reilly, joining us. Appreciate his time. All right, we got to take a short break. We'll come right back. We'll wrap it up before we get out of time here. Stick around. You're listening to 94.9 News Now and Stimulated Talk. If you want, we'll try to squeeze in one call before we wrap it up. 860-464-9490.